Good evening, everyone. I, on behalf of the organizing committee, welcome again each and everyone participating this webinar. And it's my pleasure to introduce a brief CV about Professor Brajesh Tiwari, resource person for today's webinar, International Day of Forest. Dr. Brajesh Tiwari is former professor of environmental science, Northeastern Hill University, Shillong. He served this university for more than 30 years as head department of environmental studies, dean for School of Human and Environmental Science, director for internal quality assessment and coordinator, regional center, National Afforestation and Eco Development Board, NEHU. He served the government of Meghalaya as chairman of State Environment Impact Assessment Committee and member of State Environmental Impact Assessment Authority. He has served as member of Program Advisory and Monitoring Committees of DST, UGC, and Ministry of Environment and Forest and TC Government of India. He is fellow of National Institute of Ecology and Society of Ethnobotanists of India. Professor Tiwari is an internationally acclaimed expert on socio-ecological issues related to natural resource management. He has research in the areas of shifting agriculture, community institutions, coal mining, sacred growth, shifting cultivation, climate change, forest biodiversity, forest hydrology, watershed management, freshwater biology, red plus, and eco-restoration of degraded landscape. He recently prepared PBRs for 30 villages of Meghalaya for the Meghalaya State Biodiversity Board. He, along with other team members, prepared the first comprehensive report on impact of coal mining in Jantia Hills for the State Pollution Control Board Meghalaya and EIA report for New Shillong Township. Also prepared a report on transforming shifting agriculture for NITI IO Government of India. He supervised 17 PhD students and also an expert member in several committees of Government of Meghalaya and Government of Nagaland, including expert committees of State Biodiversity Board. Professor Tiwari has collaborated with several national and international agencies like NITI AGIO, Government of India, CFI USA, University of Liverpool, UK, University of Jena, Germany, Indian Institute of Science, Northeastern Council, DST, Government of India, ICSSR, New Delhi, and several non-government agencies on research projects related to natural resource management and climate change. Currently, he is working as a ESMF national consultant to KfW, German Development Bank, on protection of vulnerable catchment areas in Meghalaya, and ESMF consultant for the ADB funded project on climate adaptive and community-based water harvesting project in Meghalaya. Presently, he is a member of expert committee of climate change program, PEST division, DST Government of India. Professor Tiwari has done research and delivered lectures in several universities and research institutes of USA, Canada, UK, Germany, China, and some countries of Southeast Asia. He has published more than 120 research papers and authored books on climate change, forest management, sacred growth, coal mining, and shifting agriculture. So here ends the briefing CV of our resource person.
Thank you, Ranita. Today, Professor B.K. Tiwari is speaking on the topic interdependence of upland and lowland village communities for forest products and water flow, a case study of Meghalaya. Sir, please take your time.
Respected Madam Asha Gupta, members of SEED, and invited audience for this webinar. So, at the outset, let me thank the the president of SEED, Dr. Asa Gupta, and all of you for giving me this opportunity is- to speak some few words about my research. I asked Madam to whether I should give a lecture on the research or it should be on sort of popular lecture. She suggested that it should be based, it's better if it can be on research based. So I selected one of my research project, which we did few years back. And that was supported by Government of India, Ministry of Environment and Forest, where the primary objective was to to monetize the ecosystem services provided by the forest. And in that project, we studied one of the aspect of that was that to find a interdependence between the upland communities and the lowland communities and how they get the forest services and what is the monetized value of that services. Today I am going to present only a part of that research project that deals with the water services. So the topic, as you all know, that is interdependence of upland and lowland village communities for forest products and water flow, a case study of Meghalaya. Yeah. So this presentation has divided into five sections. First, the introduction, study area, research methods, major findings, and conclusion. So, as we all know that in the hilly and mountainous areas, the in the landscape, there are always some areas which are at the upland and some are on the lowland. And the lowland people are dependent on the uplands for the for particularly for water, suppose in today's case, and that upland are people are dependent on the lowland areas for their agriculture, for their various other resources which they generally get from the lowland area. So these communities who are living on the hilltops or the plateau areas and those who are living in the valleys and plains adjoining the hills, they are interdependent and mm, they derive their resources from each other's areas. So in this today's contest, we will see that how this interdependency exists, particularly with respect to water. To bring the context, actually there are a number of studies which have been conducted with respect to urban areas where the urban centers, they are dependent on the catchments in their uplands and they receive their water sources from such watersheds. We have conducted a study on such interrelations for at least two major cities of Northeast. One is Kohima and there is Aizawl. And there we have documented that how these two cities, they are dependent on the neighboring upland watersheds for their water supply. In this case, since the cities have been studied worldwide, number of cities, this type of studies have been done. Today, in this study, we try to emphasize on the village and the rural area, how the one village is dependent on the other village for the water sources. In this, we have quantified the materials, forest products, as well as the water coming from forested areas and also try to put economic value to that. So this study was conducted in Meghalaya, and within Meghalaya also it was on the study was conducted on the southern slopes of Meghalaya, that is bordering Bangladesh. This area receives high rainfall, but the another issue is there. This area has is quite slopy, and most of the rain which occurs, it flows down to Bangladesh. And in this study area, there is a large, you can say up to 50-60% of the land is under forest cover, and the study area has very good functional and strong traditional institutions. They are inhabited by a sub-tribe of Khasi. They are called war people. Yeah, so for those people who are not so well acquainted about Meghalaya and Northeast, so you can see this study was conducted on in the villages near Bangladesh border in the southern part of Meghalaya. So I would like to briefly discuss about the research methods, because some of the people who are attending this webinar, they may be interested conducting similar studies in their areas. So the study was conducted in 3 clusters of upland and lowland villages. Total 9 villages were selected, and these 9 villages, in each cluster, that the villages were interconnected by a common stream. So the streams were flowing along the villages, and then we try to trace the water flow and also see that how much water the people are using from these streams. For the detailed study, the household survey was conducted, group discussion, workshops involving local people as well as experts of the field, and then spatial mapping was done using GPS, GIS techniques for the collection of primary data. There were training workshops conducted involving local people and research team for developing the methodology as well as motivating the local people to participate in the research. The location of origin of the course of streams, forests, human habitations were mapped. The quantity of water used by the residents for various purposes like drinking, domestic uses, home garden, domestic livestock, and institutions like schools, community centers, etc., was found out, and total water consumption at household level and at the village level was computed. Then the valuation of water was done using 10% of the prevailing price of the water in adjoining towns. The price of water was taken from the adjoining towns, and then it was reduced to 10%, because in villages it was considered that the prices will not be as much as in the neighboring cities. So the water price was taken from the local vendors. So this is a figure. This is how the household surveys were conducted in order to find out that how much, what is their income, what is their what type of water where from they use the water, and how much water they use, and then how much water they use for what purpose. Since today I am presenting the finding of related to water alone, so we will be mainly talking about water resources. So these were the 9 villages: Pudengsanang, Pomshamen, Nong Priang, Pingwait, Umsning, Tanglei, Maulin, Minring, and Thori. And these 9 villages, they were in 3 clusters, and each cluster was studied in detail for the water flow and also their source, and then their pricing, etc. So briefly before we go to the economic valuation, etc. Briefly, I thought that let me show one slide for the characteristics of the study villages. The villages were generally small, and the area, some of the villages were as small as only 15 hectare, but some of them were quite big, that 350 hectare each, like that. And again, population was in some villages, particularly Thori village, the population was very small, only few households were there, but there were others where the population was about 1,000. Number of household also varies from 5 to 250. Then livestock population was quite a bit. And the people of these villages, they were having a good number of livestock and cattle. There were number of how we also counted the number of water sources from where the people were collecting water, and then annual income was also found out from the village and household survey. This is the type of forest they have. Some of them are quite dense forest, but some of them are some extractions have taken place. But by and large, the forests are they are quite dense, and good forest cover are there in most of the villages. So in these villages, like any place, the people were dependent on their forest for timber, and most of them they use fuel wood, fodder, and then they collect a lot of wild fruits, vegetables, bushmeat, and materials for handicraft and the safety. They also depend on them for for safety net, and then ecosystem services also they get from the forest. This is a common site in these areas, where we can see that the forests, from the forest the streams emanate, and these streams they run towards the downstream, and they provide water for agricultural lands, and they also provide water for drinking and purposes, domestic purposes, and other uses. Now we come to the first cluster. You can see that there are number of streams emanating. The green areas are forests. Number of streams are emanating from the forest, and then they go downstream towards the villages where the habitations are there. In the north side is the slope is from south to north. So most of the streams they emanate from the forest in the north, and they move towards south. And then there are villages in the south who get benefit from, who use this water emanating from these forests through streams. There are number of streams they emanate from the forested area, and they take the water towards the villages, and these villages downstream they use this water. So these villages which are in the upstreams, they are the sort of source of water for the people living in the downstream villages. And so if you go to these villages, these downstream villages, they always say that our water sources are in the villages upstream. So this is again here if you see the picture, the blue lines are the streams, which you can see that they emanate from the forest, and they move towards the rivers, big rivers. And during the course, on the course, if there are some villages, they naturally draw their water from there. So here also you will see that the water is emanating from the forest, and that is moving from upstream to downstream. So if there is no coordination between the upstream and downstream, the downstream people are, if suppose the people living in the upstream villages, they decide As we all know, these forests in Meghalaya, they all belong to the people and the communities. So particularly most of the forests, they belong to the village community. If the village community of the upstream, they decide to fell the forest or fell the forest, then naturally the people living in the downstream villages, they will be deprived of the water, particularly water, because the timber in any case doesn't come to the downstream. Timber is used by the upstream, by the people living in that particular village, but even other forest produce, but the water flows from these villages towards downstream. Here it is slightly clearer. If you trace the streams, the rivers, which are shown by blue color, you will see that there are points where from these streams they originate and they move towards the larger rivers. And during the course, you will see that there are number of villages. These rectangles are actually the villages which are located in this area. And these villages, they derive their water sources from the streams which emanate from upstream villages. So the upstream villages, people, they are supplying the water to the downstream villages. So this is how they are interconnected with each other. Here again, you see the Minring village is upstream and the Thori village is downstream. The streams are emanating from the forest in Minring village, and then they are moving towards the downstream villages, and not only Thori, with other villages also. And the source of water for these lowland villages is the forest which are found in the upper stream. So this type of mapping, I mean, we have done only in case of 3 clusters, but any number of this type of accounting or study can be done, where we can find that how the upstreams villages and low stream villages, they are interconnected. Even in the Shillong city, in the upper reaches of Shillong city, there is a Umyu catchment, Umyu river. And then Umyu river is the source of water for Shillong city, and the forest in that area, they are actually, those are the places where from this particular river, and not Umyu river itself, but its tributaries also, they emanate from the forest. And then it is collected in the Maflang reservoir, and from there it is pumped to Shillong city. So that this is type of this in the cities, it is collected and dammed, and from the reservoirs it is again pumped. But in the villages, the people living in the downstream, they collect water directly from the streams which are emanating from the forest and coming down towards their villages. This was a sort of and this type of mapping we had done for a number of villages, not only for water, but for other resources. Here you can see that there is a forest, and the government has constructed a reservoir, and from here the pipes, they go to the downstream villages. So this is also one of the ways where PHE and Public Health Engineering Department and Water Resources Department, they tap the water from the forest, and then they provide it for drinking and domestic purposes in the downstream. So if you enter in these forests in southern slopes, war area of Meghalaya, you will find that the forests are, there are number of springs, number of waterfalls, which bring the water from the upstream and bring it to downstream. And then this water becomes available to the people living in the valleys, people living in the plains, people living in the low-lying areas. And these forests are not only source of water, but they are also source of number of other products which we had listed earlier. So you will find that these young boys and girls, they sometimes move around the forest, and then they keep on collecting certain things and they eat. And these forests, we in this study, in the larger study, in this project, we had documented the NTFPs, plant-based non-timber forest products, and we had found that the large number of species of these NTFPs, they are collected by the village people. And this type of this war area, the places where we were working, they also produce this packing leaf, and which is also collected and sold by the people. There are also the number of animal species which are collected from these forests. This and large number of animal species, all these 9 villages are there. We documented during this study that how many animal products are used by these people and how many animals they are collected from this. So they do not collect only the non-timber forest products plant-based, but a number of animal crustaceans, fishes, the mollusks, and amphibians, and other animals, rodents. All these type of animals are collected from the forest, and naturally they are eaten. These rivers, since they emanate from the forest, they are very rich in nutrient content, and they harbor a very good population of fishes. And these people, in another study, we had documented that the fishing technique. Some of you, if you are like to know, then you can search, Google search my papers on the traditional fishing, and then you'll find that in these areas how they do fishing, and they nurture the fish within the stream, and then this is possible because of the availability of the forest. You remove the forest, the fishes from the streams will also be vanished. Now we come to the monetization. So it was a exercise to find out the value of the NTFPs and later on water, how much they collect from how much the people are dependent on the forest. So in this case, you can see that plant NTFPs, each village, they collect a lot of NTFPs and plant NTFPs and animal NTFPs, and the total per household, you will find that the total collection will go to at least 47,94,756 in total. And if each and every village, this whole value of the NTFPs was monetized. And then we calculated it, and then we found out that their dependence on the forest in terms of money. Yeah, here we again come to water. The water they used mostly for the domestic purposes. 89% of the total water were used for the domestic purposes. Some is drinking, and then home gardens, domestic livestock, and village infrastructure. So this, you see that the most of the water which was collected from these streams, they were used for the domestic usage. These type of structures you can find inside the forest, and then the water is collected from the springs, and then it is used for domestic purposes. And this is where they have tapped the spring, but they also use the stream water for their purposes. This is the livestock. As I said, in this area, most of the households, they have few to 10, 20 livestock they keep. The livestock, and this water is also used for these purposes. The monetary value of water, this was a very tricky decision. How to monetize that, what will be the price of water. So in this case, first what we did, that through our survey, we calculated that how much water was used. So here in all these 9 villages, we found out per household, and then that was computed for whole village. So the amount of kiloliter of water which was used by each village, that was calculated based on the household survey and intensive survey in say in the village. Then after that, what we decided that we will take a small, very small value, 5 paise per liter. 5 paise per liter water we used, and another in another computation we used 10 paise per liter. That means that comes to 50 rupees per kiloliter and 100 rupees per kiloliter. So if we have fixed this price, then how much, what is the value of water which was used by the community? Not that how much, what is the value of the water which emanated from the forest. It is only the consumption part. So this much water was collected by these village communities, and when you multiply that with the small amount, 5 paise per liter, in the, I mean, we buy the water about 10 rupee per liter in the, or 15 rupees per liter in the cities, and many tankers nowadays supply water, and they charge 500 per tanker, which brings around say 5 kiloliter or something like that. Anyhow, so this is the amount of value of water which was collected by these village communities, and 100% this water, the source of this water was the forest. So all the streams and springs, they originated from the forest, and then they were supplying the water to the villages. I'm not reading this, but if you see that this comes to several lakhs of rupees worth water which was being used by these communities. Now we come further, another aspect of this. See, the opportunity cost of water per household. So we calculated the use of water per household. So with the same price, 5 paise per liter or 50 rupees 50 per kiloliter. So when we use this, we found that every household is using water worth, say, in the first village, they were using water worth 10,000 rupees per year per household. If it is 5 paise per liter, and their income, when we calculated we surveyed, and we found their income was about 30,000 per year. So if they had to pay for this amount, so we calculated that 36%, we are taking that lowest amount, 36% of their total annual income can go only for water. So if you see in some villages where the income was less, where poorer people living, like this village number 5, so there the income was only 21,000 per year, but they used the water also about worth 21,000 at the rate of 5 paise per liter. So that means 100% of their total income would have gone to buying water only, and that to a very, very low price if it was supplied. So therefore, you see that this water which they are getting from the nature, and are the springs and the streams emanating from the forest, that is very more than 50% in some cases, some income cases 100% of their annual income, and some cases it is about 1/3 of their income. So this in all, there is, according to if you take the mean, about 65% of their total income goes to only water. If you take it at a very low price, if you increase it to 10 or 100 rupees per kiloliter, then it goes much, much beyond their capacity. So what we found out from this study, that the only water service which has not been studied properly throughout the country, and there are not many studies conducted on this aspect in country. They have evaluated NTFP, they have evaluated timber, they have evaluated many medicinal plants, etc. And sometimes they have monetized it, but water services has not, at least, and during that time when we did it, nobody had monetized it. So we found that just this is this can be one of the mm, criteria to convince, or one of the basis to convince the communities to conserve water, conserve forest. Forest is in particularly in the hills and in northeastern hills, forest stores water, conserves water, and releases water over a period of time. Most of the springs and the streams, they remain uh, viable throughout the year, and many of them they dry, or they become seasonal. And wherever the forests have been cut or felled, the springs and the streams both are drying. So in order to keep these water sources alive, we can convince the people, convince the communities that if you keep the forest, you will continue getting water. If you remove the forest, the water is going to reduce, and one day will come when you will not get water. And then all this price, which we are putting at such a low price, this will jump tenfold, 24 or 100 times. So now we come to the what were the major takeaway from this study. We found that all of these villages, they have a sizable area under forest. So in these villages, 50 to 60% of their land was still covered under forest. And we found that a good number of springs and streams, they originate. We could not, we cannot claim that we have documented the springs also, but many of these springs, they end into streams. We had documented streams only because we couldn't, that time we did not have the methodology or the resources to document all the springs. But many of the springs originating from that area, they end up in the streams, and streams we had all documented. And we found that most of these streams in that area, they originate in the forest, and they run along the slopes and pass through the downstream villages. And these downstream villages, they get their water from the streams which have originated from the forest upstream, and they are providing the water. In one of my recent visits to some of these villages in that area, when we were conducting one focus group discussion for some other project, we found that I asked them question that where is your water, where from you are getting your water? They say that this stream, particular stream. Where is the origin of this stream? They say upstream. In the other, is that stream, is that forest in your village? No, it belongs to another village. So then I naturally asked them question, if suppose that village decides to fell their forest, or they clear their forest, what will happen to you? Then, sir, we will not get water. We'll lose our water source. So that type of interdependence is there. And these people living in the downstream, they are sometimes helpless. The forest in upstream, they are degrading, and their water supply in the downstream is decreasing. So this type of things are happening in many villages in the hills. So these springs and streams emanating from the forest are the principal source of water for the people living in lowland villages. Then what we found, when we monetized it, we converted into rupee terms, the water value of water. Then what we found that about 90% of the total water is used for domestic uses. Forest and their associated water bodies are also source of a variety of NTFPs of both plant as well as animal origin. Actually, plant NTFPs have been studied, but we found that the streams and small rivers, small pools and ponds which are found inside the forest, they harbor a large variety of these aquatic animals, not only fish, so number of other animals. Crabs are in a large number. Some of the mollusks are in large numbers. And these communities living thereby, they collect all these animals and which make their important source of protein for them, which has also not been documented much in the studies related to, and they provide nutrition, very good nutrition to the people. You have seen these young boys. They are not. They don't look unhealthy. They are quite healthy, and the reason for their health is the availability of these animals which are found in aquatic bodies inside the forest, which they collect. That is quite often ignored. I mean, we all know that the forest is seen as a source of timber. Nobody thinks that the communities living there, they also collect the crustaceans and mollusks and they eat it every day. So if at all they think about fish, but other smaller animals, they are ignored. Then the dependence of the lowland people for water on the forest of upland people is amply depicted in the resource map of the 3 cluster of villages. We have prepared several such maps where the origin of streams from the forest, upland forest, and then even in the Shillong, upper Shillong, that Lum Shillong. From Lum Shillong, there are 9 streams which emerge from that forest, and then they join together and to make the big river, Umu River. So then the valuation of water in terms of rupees showed that the value of water used at household level runs in thousands of rupees, which in case of most villages even exceeds their total income. So there is no way these people, poor people living in the villages, they can afford to buy the water. And the value of water is sometimes more than their income. So the very concept of the payment of ecosystem services, that means sometimes in the Western world, they talk that, I mean, even in New York, if you are receiving water from a watershed, and if that watershed belongs to a particular private company or private individual, then these individuals, they charge money for that, the collection of water. In Kohima also, lot of water is sold by the people who are owning the watersheds. So the land belongs to a particular family, and then they are selling water in truckloads of water to Kohima city. So they are earning from the sale of water in several lakh rupees per year or per month even. So that is the type of business is likely to come, where water will become a commodity and it will be sold in trucks. Nowadays also in most of the northeastern cities, truckload of water is being sold. Even in Shillong also it is being sold. So annually, rupees 47 lakh worth of NTFPs and 120 lakh of worth of water is collected from this 913 hectare of forest. So in these villages, we mapped and we found that there is about 1,000 hectare forest, from which we also calculated that what worth of water is being collected and what is the worth of the NTFPs which are collected from there annually. So this is a huge amount. If we try to monetize the benefit from the forest, which is important, which at least there are number of policymakers, number of people, they only understand if you talk in terms of money. If you talk even in terms of intangibles and other things, then probably they don't understand. They don't. It doesn't catches their mind. So what we conclude? So the one conclusion which is coming out of is that monetary value of water, even if it is suppose kept only 1 paise per liter or 5 paise per liter, is beyond the paying capacity of average household. Because most of the people who live in the villages, they can't afford to buy water. In the cities, people are comparatively richer, and they sometimes they can afford to buy a tanker of water. But villages, you just cannot afford. Then all once water is not there, the number of issues will come. It will come with respect to I mean, all sorts of hygienes and sanitation and all sorts of waste disposal and cleanliness, everything will be affected. Then, therefore, the concept of user fee may not work. So, what we decided, we concluded in this project that the very concept which is sometimes proposed, that the person who is using the ecosystem service, he should pay. So the user fee may not work in rural areas inhabited by poor people. So if a particular forest or catchment is being protected, and in Northeast, lot of land belongs to the individuals and people and villages, no government land, very small patch of government land. So the if that particular person from where the steam is emanating or the spring is emanating, he puts a sort of dam there, and he starts selling the water. Then downstream people living in the downstream, they just cannot buy it. Their paying capacity is very, very low. What is the then solution? We thought that the only solution is that social recognition, co-management through inter-village institutional mechanism seems to be the most plausible solution. So the people living in the downstream villages, people living in the upstream villages, they should find some sort of co-management, and these people living downstream, they try to sit with them and try to acknowledge the services provided by the upstreams, and some sort of this type of institutional mechanism can work. What we found that since this Meghalaya, we find that the socio-political institutions are very strong, and therefore they can play a vital role in ensuring continued existence of this interdependence of upland and lowland village communities. So there is a possibility that these institutions come in picture, and then they try to make some sort of agreement or some sort of recognition, and then they try to continue. They try to convince that these forests, please protect these forests, and so that we all coexist. The government of Meghalaya, I think some of you may be knowing, has started paying ecosystem services. So they have, if you go to the government of Meghalaya website, you will find that they are paying 3,000 to 5,000 rupees per hectare per year to the people who are maintaining their forests intact. They are maintaining and enhancing their forest. So these type of government interventions can also work, but then the government may have to pay a lot of revenue to such people who are owning these forests. So but that is one way which government of Meghalaya is experimenting, whether the payment of ecosystem services can ensure continued existence of forest, particularly for the benefit of the lowland communities and for their own benefit also. Other thing which came to our mind during this project, which we recommended to Government of India that time, because this whole project was funded by Government of India. So we recommended them that to ensure sustainable future and well-being of the humans inhabiting mountains and hilly areas, it will be required to devise ways and means for forging partnership. The same thing I think repeat we are writing between the upland and lowland villages for strengthening the health of forest and conservation of its biodiversity and for continued supply of ecosystem services. So it's not only water. Water today in today's talk I have talked only for water. Other services which are emanating from these forests and which are being enjoyed by the both the upland and lowland communities, then the that you can say that that is not documented here in today's presentation because I thought of making is it half an hour talk. Yeah. So this research was done by a number of research students who worked with me, and I acknowledge it would have not been possible without the cooperation of the local people whom we interviewed. And I also owe this work to my respected teachers from whom I learned this conducting this research and training. So this is in this slide. I thank you very much. But you can see that how the forest on the hills, they are keeping the water in the streams so clean and usable. Even you can drink this. So this is a picture taken by one of my students, and thank you very much. Thank you very much for giving me this chance. Yeah, tell me any question anybody wants to ask or anything clarified.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
So I'm Daisy Awam from Manipur.
Okay.
I would like to ask one simple question, sir. You have mentioned that the forests of Meghalaya, they are very mostly belong to the village communities. And in order to protect this forest, the government interventions are also taken up, like paying money to the owners of these forest lands, etc. So, will you please highlight the major threats of these forests, which of the what to say, what major threats which leads to the loss of these forest areas in Meghalaya?
There are so many drivers of forest degradation. The main driver is the has been shifting cultivation, for which the forests were cleared. Even few 10-year, 5-year-old fellows were cleared, and then shifting cultivation was being done. But now the scenario has quite changed. Now what is happening that these forest land which were previously on erstwhile forest were under Jhum. Now Jhum lands are being converted in Meghalaya into plantations, cash crop plantations. In Garo Hills, if you are conversant about Meghalaya, in Garo Hills, the most of the farmers, they have converted their erstwhile forest and Jhum land into areca nut plantations. And in Khasi Hills, they have converted their Jhum lands into broom grass plantations. So this both for broom grass as well as for areca nut, there is a big market. So the Jhum farmers or shifting cultivators, they have converted into a cash crop plantations or cash. I mean, they market. They are fulfilling the market demand, and now they are buying their food from the market and eating, and then they are earning the cash. So this is one of the major driver in Meghalaya, which is sinking the forest. Actually, when it was shifting cultivation, the forest was not so much lost, because in many cases where the long cycle was there. So the forests were regenerating, and but now the all those lands have been converted into agroforest or the plantations of various kind, not only betel nut, even coffee, rubber, tea, and broom grass is coming up in large scale. So this is the major conversion which is taking place, and agriculture is also there. Some places they are cutting the forest for boon cultivation, for other type of agriculture. So this is happening, and this is not the case of only Meghalaya. This is almost whole of the north.
Yes, sir. In our state also, that's the same problem we are facing.
There
Thank you,
also
sir.
there also the shifting cultivation lands are being converted into cash crops. Is it so?
Where pineapple cultivation is
pineapple.
done on a large scale,
Yeah,
and there is great loss of forest in our area also.
yeah, that is good.
Uh, Hello, sir.
Yeah,
It's very nice to hear from you. I
good.
have some query regarding Meghalaya.
Yeah.
Many of your slides, when I go through your presentation, it seems that the system are quite natural and undisturbed, and the downstream villages are saying that their source of water are from the upstreams. Is it not, sir?
Yeah, it's correct. Correct. It's
What
correct.
I like to know is that uh, from my view, most of the villages are lying at the downstream and at the upstream regions are forested. Is it not like? Is there?
There are some villages, some people they live in the upstream also. It's not that all the people they live in the lowland area, but these people who are living in the upstream also, if their villages, most of their land is under forest, then their agricultural lands are downstream. That's why that and they travel 1 kilometer, 2 kilometer down to to their zoom lands and cultivation lands. So this type, that is why I call it interdependence, because these upper people are dependent on the lands in the downstream for their agricultural fields, and they say down people they are dependent on the upstream people for the water. So there is always, that's why I suggested that there can be a meeting point between the community, these two communities, and then they can sort out the issues. That time when we conducted this study, this payment of ecosystem services was not there. It started only about 2 years back, when government of Meghalaya got some grant from the World Bank. Then they started paying ecosystem services and trying to protect, convince the communities to not to fell the forest, or not to change their land use from forest to agroforestry or forest or agriculture, and try to retain the forest. But this system is not a sort of sustainable system, because the how long the government can pay the people to in order to convince them to retain their forest and not to cut it, because someday will come when they may decide that we need the timber, or we need.
Regarding that, sir, what I like to know is that whether the rivers that are coming from the this thing upstream, whether they are using only for agricultural purposes, or whether or they are using for domestic household, including what to say, a drinking purpose or something like that. Because there's some clarity is seen at the upstream and all. It actually it relates to the quality of the water also. What I mean is,
Yeah. Actually, there are two sources of water in the downstream also, in the upstream also. One is spring, another one is stream. The stream or river, you can say, a small river. So the spring waters are generally clean, and drinkable, and they use it for drinking or for any other such purposes. But some of the spring waters, even stream water also is not, not contaminated with any type of pesticides or other materials. Most of the time, they are also quite usable. May not be drinkable, but for household usage and other uses, they can use it, and they generally use it. And what they do is, I had shown in one spring where there was two chambers were made, and then the lady was collecting water from that tap. So that is spring water, which is drinkable. They use it for drinking. But the water which is collected from the streams or rivers, that is not cannot be used directly for this drinking purposes. But they don't get any other water. They drink that only.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your answer.
Dr. Sarita, please ask.
Yeah.
Dr. Sarita.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Good evening. Tell me.
Sir, I'm Sarita, and I'm from DM College of Science, Manipur.
Okay.
So, your presentation was really good, sir, and was really nice to hear all the monetary values and opportunity cost of water. So, one small question which I want to raise to you as an environmental student from PATSA. So nowadays we are hearing lots of things on deforestation, but then now the issue is when the people who are residing in the forest, they have adopted certain policies for their livelihood. Now the policy turned out to be their livelihood sustenance, but that is not favorable for the nation as such. Then so how do we go with the conservation strategy? The query is the livelihood policy versus conservation strategy. So I find myself in the midst. So how do we explain to the people living out there not to practice?
Yeah.
So that how do we make them understand? Because if it is to be banned, then their livelihood is at stake. We have to provide some alternative, but the alternative may not be that feasible also. So, sir, how do we tackle if such situation comes up, sir? Because deforestation, sir, you have already explained so much about that. But if we show them the monetary basis also, still then their livelihood is their issue. Then how do we go for it, sir?
No, I mean, yes, the no ecology works against economics.
Yes, sir.
So ecology will not work if it is against economics. No hungry man can be asked not to earn or not to collect any food from, or not to earn for food. So this is two things, they don't go together. If you know the history of Europe, history of some parts of US, they all degraded their forests. They are all destroyed their biodiversity during the 15th and 16th century, and even prior to that. And then after that, when they became rich, they started conserving, and now, but the most of the biodiversity is lost. Now their biodiversity is reduced. It's not that what they have today, it has been like that 400, 500 years ago. So they had also destroyed everything. So now they are preaching us that please try to maintain yourself. So the thing is that what I suggest in that type of situation, that we have to manage at the landscape level, and we have to identify the critical zones which have to be conserved at any cost, particularly the places from where the rivers originate, particularly the places from which are harboring the rare and threatened species, the biodiversity rich areas, all those things. And then identify those as a sort of a village level protected forest, village protected
Mhm.
forest, who is from just like sacred groups. You have sacred group in Manipur also. So
Yes, sir.
the sacred forest in Meghalaya, we have large areas under sacred forest. These sacred
Mhm.
forests, they serve a lot of purposes for the ecosystem, providing ecosystem services. So like that,
Mhm.
if we convince the people to take a balance, this type of balance is existing in several villages in Meghalaya. If you have gone to Cherrapunji side, you might have seen that in the on the roadside, you will see the small patches of forest,
Mhm.
while most of the land is degraded. So
Mhm.
these small patches of forest, they have been conserved for the water sources. If you go Jaintia Hills, the people have conserved small patches of forest which serve as water sources. So the communities themselves, they are protecting some patches of forest which are critical for their own livelihood. But at the same time, there should be certain areas which should be cleared, and where they should go for the agriculture or horticulture or the cash crop cultivation, etc., etc. So there has to be some balance. Then only it will work. No extreme decision can help. That you can totally ban that this. And then another good thing I would like to suggest, that in most of northeastern states there is no land use policy.
Yes, sir.
So land use policy is very important. And then if you go to Europe, you cannot change land use easily. You
Mhm.
cannot get a permission for the change of land use. You cannot build a house inside the forest. You cannot build a house in agricultural field. Here there is no land use policy. Anybody can raise the habitation anywhere, and anybody can cultivate, cut the forest, or anybody can raise a forest inside the agricultural fields. So that type of a sort of a land use policy and land use demarcation, then that should be there. Any change in land use mm, has to be, the person has to take permission from the land use board or something like that. So this type of situation, if it comes, then there is a likelihood of the better land use management. Otherwise, the I mean, without any land use policy, it's very difficult to ask the people to maintain a forest or maintain an agricultural field. I mean, like that. So these are some of the recommendations which can work. Even the work, the Meghalaya government, what they are doing is that payment of ecosystem services, that is working by and large, but it is not sustainable. It's not sustainable because government cannot continue paying. There are hundreds of thousands of hectares of forest in Meghalaya, and all that, if you do multiply by 5,000 rupees, it will come into billions. So they cannot pay that much amount. So it's not sustainable.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Moving on to, I request Professor Asa Gupta, Presidency, to give the presidential speech. Over to ma'am.
I'm very much thankful to Professor Tiwari ji for accepting our request and giving a very thought-provoking lecture. You see that how the basic research on the ground, it can help the policy makers also to help the people and people's livelihood. As he has said that in Meghalaya government, after looking all these things on the basis of researches which he has done and which he has proposed, that Meghalaya government is paying as many as 3,000 to 5,000 per hectare for the ecosystem service the forest is providing and the people who are maintaining it. So it's great. And Sir has told in his work that in from 913 hectare of forest, about 47 lakh rupees in the form of NTFT, some monetization value was done, and it's very important because we are taking the resources as free. However, the resources are not free, and we have to attach that tag, economic tag to it, and then only we understand that how much important services these resources, the nature is giving to us the gift of these resources, and we are taking them as free and exploiting them. So this on this day, let us take the oath that we will not waste these resources
because we purchase the water, we understand the value of it, but the stream is flowing, the river is flowing, the springs are there, and we take them very free and then destroy them. So it should not be the way. He has told also that more than 120 lakh of water of value we are getting from that forest, though he has put a very small amount to that water. That tag is also very small. Otherwise, if you put in the other way, then the value may be much more times what is given. But still, it is he has said that the household can get that value. It is bigger than that, and then they cannot pay that much, but they are getting that free service from nature. So we have to say that there is upland and lowland interdependency. Sir has explained very well, and we understand, sir, that there are no geographical barriers. Everywhere the things are connected. Whether there are hills, there are valley, there is upland, there is lowland. If there is some disturbance in lowland, then the upland is affected. If there is upland disturbance is there, then lowland is affected. We have seen shifting cultivation case. We have seen in valley the things how the eutrophication, etc., will take place. If we have seen that what is misuse there in the valley, then the hills will be affected, because we know that air and water, these are our common and then resources, and then global resources, and we have to not waste it. Then when we talk of ecosystem services, the Costanja in Nature, he has published that whatever ecosystem services we are getting from our natural resources, the forest, the oceans, the rivers, springs, etc., they all come to more than 3 times the global GDP. So that much is the value he has calculated, and then we should understand that these resources, they are so precious, which Mother Nature has gifted us, and we should not waste them. Now coming again, I thank sir. I mean wholeheartedly thank on behalf of SEED, sir, to accept our invitation and give a very beautiful lecture. I think many of the researchers who have taken the note of it, because they are also working in the field, they should take up some projects that in Manipur also, that how they can put a price tag to it, and how these resources they are used or misused, and then they can raise the awareness among the people for that. So now with this, then again I will come to our day's theme, because this International Day of Forest, as UN has proclaimed, we are celebrating on 21st of this March. We know that biodiversity is the basis of life and our life support system. Forests are home to 80% of world terrestrial biodiversity. It includes many endangered and endemic species. 50% of this biodiversity dwells in tropical rainforests. Over 300 million people live in the world forest, and billions more depend for the ecosystem services which these forests provide. When we talk of forests and diversity, they clean the air we breathe. The nature has provided the base insurance cover in the form of forests, the trees, the roots, which they have got for keeping the water intact in pure form. So they filter the water we drink, they protect from harmful ultraviolet rays, they reduce the urban heat island effect, they create sustainable income, provide powerful defense against natural disaster, help humans survive food shortage during floods, droughts, and famines, reduce stress, improve our health, protect against extreme weather events, mitigate climate change, sequester carbon, and provide a number of benefits and ecosystem services. Only one forest of rainforest plants are there, and then which have been explored, and they only 1% of those plants they are providing 25% of pharmaceutical medicines. So we can imagine that how much exploration has to be done, research has to be done, and then how much value these forests are providing. The trees and other wealth is providing, forest wealth is providing. We talk about nationally determined contributions. They are at heart of Paris Agreement. They signify the efforts by each country to reduce national emissions that it intends to achieve. India's intended nationally determined contribution for climate change emphasizes the creation of additional carbon sink of 2.5 to 3 billion tons by 2030, which can be met by increasing the country's green cover. However, harmful human activities like logging and deforestation for development, people-induced forest fires adversely impact on these climate action plans and the goals set by official climate action declaration to prevent a further decline of India's forest cover. To meet India's challenges for sustainable forest management, some modern technological interventions and innovations are also needed, and they are considered for forest management that could benefit from technological application. For example, it is said that like exploring the potential of Internet of Things, IoT, the use of smart sensors are green bots that have significant amount of consideration in Indian situation. Based on the concept of IoT, an intelligent and interoperable network of devices interconnected through a dynamic global infrastructure network can be created to connect and exchange data across locations at any time. These technology-driven smart sensors called green boats are attached to tree bark to prevent detection, and when they are attached to these tree barks, they are providing data that can serve as catalyst towards more sustainable forest management. And these are the key to preserving and sustaining the India's forest. So by using such data on soil and weather conditions, these smart sensors can employ predictive analytics and help in sustainable forest management and conservation practices. I will give an example of Trivia, an organization in Brazil which has got about 60% of above 60% forest cover. They have developed a remote forest monitoring system called Smart Forest in 2014. It developed wireless electronic sensors to monitor real-time growth in Brazil's forest. The data was collected, analyzed, and informed to the policymakers. The solution they offered from Smart Forest was the forest research using high precision data, hazard assessment, specialized forest consultation, and this is it is said that it is very much successful when they get the data rather than the traditional approaches. In India too, we have got applications of these technologies, and they have potential to address some of the most fundamental challenges in forest management. For example, there are illegal activities of logging, mining, etc. in the forest, and these green box, these smart sensors, they can detect any disturbance in the forest areas through these activities, any disturbance. Because this activity or disturbance is triggers a signal on the green board, which then gets reflected to the cloud, allowing the authorities to take appropriate action. So in this way, the timely detection and prevention of these illegal operations in the forest, it can be done. So the census is programmed and the information is obtained from daily relative humidity, temperature, forest cover density, etc. Like the data which is available in the forest, but they can help in occurring, the detecting the occurrences in the forest, and it can be assessed in time so that information can be utilizable. It is utilized for monitoring the forest and site specific conservation and restoration plans. And very much important there here, the participation of community must be there. Then for example, they can be also a strategic tool to provide a complete inventory of sector groves and landscape in all biogeographic regions, which details the biological, ecological, and socio-cultural values associated with them. These institutions are under various threat. Meghalaya sir has worked in the sector grove, and people are coming there just to see that grove, that how they are. People are keeping the communities keeping intact the forest. In Manipur also we have a chain of groves. However, they are smaller in size, not like that of Meghalaya. But it is crucial to encourage the recognition of conservation and community reserves and sacred groves under amended Wildlife Protection Act, because if it is under that act, then it will facilitate the conservation of groves by making them eligible for government funding and technical support. As Government of India launches various programs and introduces policy regulations to achieve the targets set up in forestry for sustainable development, it includes the mainstreaming of forest management activities like agroforestry, farm forestry, bamboo, medicinal plants, non-wood forest, which Sir has talked, and enormous which have enormous employment opportunities in the country. If we the technology like green posts, smart sensors, they may be of vital use in providing real-time feedback and then useful to the policymakers as well as for sustainable forest management. So this is something about the innovations at the this level, at the higher level. But here I want also to say about the innovations at the ground level, which the community is doing. For example, we know here that in shifting cultivation is very of wide prevalence in northeast India. But here people who are community people, they have not done any research, but by their observation, they understand that in those fields, Ulmus nepalensis is not to be cut. It should be kept intact. Because why? Because we know now that it is a nitrogen fixing species and it will restore the fertility of the soil. So this is very important that at the ground level, people, the community, they know this important finding and then they are utilizing it in practice at the ground level. Second thing I will say that if you visit any grove in Manipur, sector grove in Manipur, you will get the ficus species of different types of growing in Manipur. And you will get the ficus species. In ecology, we call these species, ficus species, as the keystone species. And these keystone species, if they are there, then if some degradation takes place or something, then restoration is possible very easily. The whole food chain and the wave, etc., it can be again established. So these are the uh, practical innovations we are finding in community in Manipur, we have seen in Northeast, and therefore this knowledge which the community possesses, it is very useful and important. So on this International Day of Forest, let us take the place, our scholars, university teachers, the important persons who are attending this, let us take the pledge that we will work for the advancement, we will work in our research with the advancement of technology, but we will also combine the community knowledge, which is very precious, which is available at the ground level, connecting this science with the socio-cultural institutions which are existing there since times, since long time. We have to establish this connection and understand that in what way these institutions, they have helped in conservation and protection of biodiversity and our forests. With this, again, I thank all those who are attending this webinar. I'm thankful again to Professor Tiwari ji, who has very kindly accepted our request and given a very thought-provoking lecture. Definitely people will take, sir, clue from your lecture, develop some small projects or big projects, and definitely they will work in the field. It has given a wide what to say encouragement to the people and our seed members, I feel and suppose. I have seen Saurabh Dev from Tripura University, Dr. Anindita from Kanpur. I'm thankful to them also for attending this, all seed members and all the students who are very zealously they're attending this function. I'm thankful to all of you. Over to Ushara. Yes, one more announcement. The feedback forms will be available. So the persons who are attending and who want certificates, please fill the feedback forms before closing. Now I will hand over this thing, proceeding to Usharani, Dr. Usharani.
Now I request Dr. Sophia Morangkem, Assistant Professor, East Kula Women College, and Executive Member of SIT, to give vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Usarani. Good evening, Honorable Speaker, respected professors, and all the participants. It is my privilege to propose the vote of thanks and acknowledge the contribution of those who worked really hard to make this event possible. On behalf of the organizing committee, I extend a hearty vote of thanks to our invited Honorable Speaker, former Professor Brajesh Tiwari, Environmental Science Northeastern Hill University, Shillong, who has acclaimed internationally expert on the socio-ecological issues related to natural resource management on special reference to Southeast Asia. As the research area is on shifting cultivation, sacred crops, climate change, forest biodiversity, watershed management, ecosystem services, soil biology, eco-restoration of degraded landscape, etc. So We today had an opportunity to hear Sir's ideas and knowledge on ecosystem services provided by forests in the economy and the livelihood of villages in Meghalaya. And I hope this will surely help and encourage us in all our future endeavors. So we have no word to offer gratitude for your valuable presence in today's event. Thank you so much, sir. I also want to extend thanks to Dr. Saurabh Deb, Tripura University, Professor Anandita from Kanpur for participating in today's event. I also want to extend my thanks to N. Santos and the Sadam Brizit Singh for their technical support. Also, I am thankful to all the participants who spare time from their busy schedule to grace this event. Lastly, I would also like to extend my thanks to our respected Madam, retired Professor Rasa Gupta, Department of Life Science, Manipur University, and President, Society for Environmental Education and Development, for her efforts and arranging in making today's event a grand success. Once again, thank you all for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophia. So with the permission of the chair, I declare the webinar closed.